strange. I'm inside the roof of the temple. And it will not. I can move around a little bit. Very odd indeed. That'll get me back to where I need to be. Alright, well, welcome back everybody. Here we are at the temple once again, and I'm no longer stuck in the roof. Not sure if that resetting my config file actually did anything or not, but here we are anyway. Last time we were here, we were working on this path to the temple. Also, been slowly figuring out this whole YouTube recording thing. Not exactly a master at that yet. But I think when we left off, I said that we were going to talk about these controls here. The ones that are above the inventory bar. They're controlled with the number keys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, you can only use, it seems, if you have something in your bar to select. Okay, for some reason I can't close my inventory now, not sure why. There we go. Alright, so if you have something in your inventory to select, that's basically for placing blocks. So it brings up your little square there so you can start placing those blocks down. That is what I'm understanding that does. Now, again, just as a reminder for all you people who are just now watching this series and starting with this episode, we're learning Tug. We're learning it together. I've definitely not mastered this game yet, but so going over these controls. Number 1, on your keyboard will take you to your cube selection. I think that's for just specifically for manipulating and placing blocks. Now, number 2 just gives you nothing. You just have your cursor. What that's for is it's like a selection tool, right? So you can come in and like say I wanted to select this torch. Notice whenever I'm not highlighted on the, where my crosshairs isn't on the torch, it's not highlighted. There, it's highlighted. So we're going to left click, and we now have the torch picked up. And if you notice, whenever we picked up the torch, it immediately switched us over to number 3. What number 3 does is it allows you to move the torch around in the environment. And the game engine is smart enough that if you notice, it's not clipping through these blocks here. It does a little bit there, but you can see I'm just moving straight. Well, you can't see it, but I'll take my word for it. I'm actually pushing straight across, and what it's doing is it's actually making the torch slide up and on top of the box, like that there. So, place an item back down again, just right click. Sorry, left click. Again, still learning, but just left click, it will place that back down. But it keeps the item that you have in your hand, so you can manipulate it. So let's go in here and let's do something else with this torch. Okay, so if you come over here, you can see I have the same torch, but it's on an angle. It's on like a 45-degree angle. And how you can do that is you want to select number 4. And then this is all connected to your mouse movement. So whenever you move your mouse up or forward, it's going to rotate the item back. You see how it's kind of rotating the top of the item backwards? And if you pull your mouse towards you, it will rotate the top of the item towards you. I'm trying to get this straightened up here. There you go. Also, if you move the mouse to the right, it rotates it to the right. Again, left. Obviously, he's going to rotate it left. So, that's how we got those torches to be the way that they are. Now, also, to get it, once you get the torch positioned the way that you want, say like this, let's go on a 45-ish, and just hit 3. That's how I do it. Hit 3, now your torch is, or your item is locked in that rotated position that you wanted it to be in, and you can now move around the room and figure out, okay, where exactly do I want to place this? Let's just say I want to place it inside here. Now, here's one little glitch. I'm not sure if they'll fix this or not. Actually, I kind of hope they don't, but I'm sure they probably will. Once the item is rotated, it doesn't rotate its hitbox. All it does is the way I'm understanding how this works. It doesn't rotate its hitbox. What it does is it just rotates the actual skin of the object. So now I can actually get this torch to, if you can notice, it's actually clipping into the wall. But it'll only clip in so far, and then it stops. So it gives me an opportunity to take advantage of that and make some of these torches a little bit shorter. So I'm going to try to put this about in the middle of this opening. And left click and we'll place that in there just like that. There we go. So I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and do this as well. Let's see here. There we go. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's get some of this ambient sound off of here. There we go. Boy, the wind is really ripping out there today. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now, so we've covered the number 1 key for placing blocks, number 2 key for selecting objects in the world, 3 key for moving those objects without rotating them, 4 will specifically rotate the object and that's all controlled by your mouse. Now let's move on to 5. Okay, so 5, what it is, if you notice, is doing nothing. Right now I'm moving my mouse all over the place, and it's doing nothing. And the reason is, what 5 does, there are certain objects in the game that you can make larger or smaller. So you can have different sizes of these things. So if you've ever, you know, in Minecraft or something, built a house and you're like, man, I just wish this thing was just a little bit smaller, and you weren't able to do it. Well, in Tug, especially in creative mode, you're going to be able to do that and be able to shrink some of these objects down. So let's see if we can find an object that we can actually manipulate here. And probably, I don't know about all of them, but the one that I've been messing with the most has been these crystals. I really like these crystal clusters, and I want to use some of them for accents. Outside the temple here, so let's go with, I kind of like the blue one. Again, I'm going to replace that torch. I OCD, I don't want to have a whole bar full of stuff. The I key is not closing the inventory anymore. Looks like escape is what you've got to use now. So let's take this crystal cluster, let's go outside here. And I want to place a couple of these crystal clusters in like odd spots, just randomly around. Okay, randomly around. So let's place one right there. Okay. Now that kind of looks okay, but I want it to look a little bit more natural. So I'm going to put a smaller cluster kind of offset from it. So I'm going to take this same thing, I'm going to rotate my position some so that the object will actually rotate its position. And then right about there looks like it's going to be good, but I want it to be smaller. So I'm going to hit that 5 key, right? Now watch what happens when I move my mouse. Move it forward, the cluster gets larger. Move it backwards, and the cluster gets smaller. Now obviously there's a limit to how small you can make things. But now that I've made this smaller, it's too far away from that other cluster, so I've shrunk it down to where I want it to be. I'm going to hit the 3 key, and now you can see I can move this over to there. Now I'm just going to hit 1, get rid of that. So now we have these 2 clusters of crystals right there. Both the same item, but using that size tool for number 5, we actually shrunk this one down. And then by positioning our body differently, we also change the orientation so it looks a little bit more natural. So that's what the 5 key does. Now, 6. What does 6 do? I'll let you take a wild guess what 6 does. Okay, so 6. Let's see. What do we have out here that we want to just... I think one of the people in the comments said that this giant rock just doesn't look right and we need to do something about it. Bam! There it goes, and it's gone. The 6 is just a delete key. It works on items but not on blocks. So you see I'm clicking on the ground here, nothing's happening. It's just on items in the game, so you can delete these trees, rocks, these plants here. You can't delete these plants though, which is odd. This plant is actually part of a grass block that's down there. So to get rid of that, you actually have to dig it up to get rid of that. So that's kind of strange, but just so you know, that's how that works.